This is the second tutorial where we look into setting up and maintaining sessions in a Jakarta Java Enterprise Edition version 8 web application. In this lecture, we'll look at the following topics. We'll look at storing complex data structures in sessions, and we'll learn how to store more intricate data in the session object, making sure it's serializable for use in a cluster. We'll look at making sessions useful by discovering how to utilize sessions effectively using examples like the session activity in our charity registration to store complex serializable classes and user data. We'll explore the following topics. We look at a serializable session object that can be passed around in a cluster. We are going to reuse our JSP config tag in the base Java server page fragment file and redirect it to our index.jsp page in our charity registration example. And in our example, we will use a complex serializable class. And now we're going to go over to our course documentation with our brand new layout theme. And we'll select maintaining state using sessions part 2. And we see that we start off by adding a page visit class where we are going to store our session. And then we are going to add an activity servlet to update our session with a do-get that calls the record session activity and then view session activities. And we see in here the page visits gets updated. And then for the view session activity, we have a new view session activity JSP. And this is all embedded Java. We show the session properties and we show the page visits. Now we are back in Eclipse and we start off with our base fragment file that is included through our JSP config section in our web.xml, and we import the registration object and the file attachment. We also use the core tag library and the formatting tag library. Then we look at our index.jsp, so we commented out the redirects from our previous tutorials, and we have the new one that goes to our activity session, which is our activity session servlet with the do-get, the record session activity, and the view session activity, where we update the page visits. And the page visits is our serializable session store object, where we have an enter timestamp, a left timestamp, a request, and an internet address. And then we have our view session activity JSP page, and we see we import more Java in here, the array list, the page visit, and the date, and also the simple date format. We have a toString or a time interval, and here we output the session ID, whether the session is new, the date and time of the creation of the session object, and then we look at the page visits for this specific session. So let's get ready to run our application. First we'll rerun our Maven build. We rerun the clean install on the whole project. That looks good. Look at our server setup, and we remove the old charity registration. We clean the Tomcat work directory, and then under project we do a clean and clean all projects. And now we are ready to run our charity registration. So we select Run As, Run on Server, select the Tomcat 9 localhost, Next, and we have the charity registration and finish. And here we see our redirect kicks in, and we are on the JSP page. We see the session ID, we see that the session is new, we see the creation date of the session, and then we see our first output of our page activity object. And if we do a kind of a restart on our web page, we see a renewal of the session page activity, and we also see that our session is no longer new. Now what we can do is take our charity registration object and test it with a different browser. We'll go to the Microsoft Edge and enter the charity registration address. And here we see we have a different session associated with this browser and a different creation date. And of course, when we refresh, we'll see the update. And we can go back to our other browser and do another refresh. It demonstrates that for each browser, we have a specific associated session in our session activity example. And that concludes this tutorial. I will see you in the next one.